Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here. Time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Friday afternoon, the second day of September 2022. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter than the last couple of days, but we are going to discuss this very strange season that we have been dealing with. And, look, we've got a hurricane up at these high latitudes, for goodness sakes. 91L just kind of lumbering along still. Yes, we're still talking about 91L. We do have some action in the eastern Pacific. And, of course, our typhoon way out on the West Pac. All of that and a little bit of other stuff in today's update. Good to have you with me. So let's start off with the National Hurricane Center homepage. Here is Danielle way up in the far latitudes, the northern latitudes, 65 knots or 75 miles per hour. We'll look at that on our interactive tracking map more in just a moment. This is Invest Area 91L. And Air Force Recon is out there checking it out right now. They are finding some tropical storm force winds, but it's not very well organized. So I doubt that it gets an upgrade. We'll see. You never know. And then out in the eastern Atlantic, this is just not even worth talking about because it is going to dissipate. I mean, really, that's part of, I guess I will talk about it. When you see that and the fact that it is 0%, something's going on. That's not right in a year with a La Nina, a warm tropical Atlantic, all the other stuff that should be favorable, and yet this is going to fizzle out. Wow. That is remarkable. It really is. All right, in the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Javier, or Javier, however you pronounce it, off the coast of the Baja. And let me show you from our Discord real quick. This is a video from Brent. Early this morning, Brent is down there. He's one of our supporters and colleagues, and like I call him, our MacGyver. A little bit of wave action down there, kind of a gloomy sky this morning. He's in the Cabo San Lucas area for a wedding this weekend. Not his, but somebody in his family. And then this is something from earlier, just a little while ago, that he sent me. Some flooding down there from the outer bands of that tropical storm. And it just goes to show you that even when they are offshore like this, yes, you can have some impacts. All right, so the track map here, our interactive map from the Hurricane Track Insider site. There is Danielle. This is Javier, or Javier, however you pronounce it, off the coast of the Baja there, and nothing really in between. Pretty remarkable how quiet it is overall. All right, satellite animation. In the eastern Pacific, our tropical storm here, not very well organized, but as you can see, let me go back to the interactive map for a second. Remember, these are not, in real life, swirly animated icons on a map. They actually are much larger and have a larger area of influence than what you see. And even the cone of uncertainty has nothing to do with impacts. You got to look at the satellite, the radar, and what is really happening out there. And the tropical storm is much bigger than just a little swirling icon on the map. And as such, kind of gloomy and inclement weather down here in and around the Baja region, Cabo San Lucas and vicinity. But the core of it, the worst of it, certainly offshore. So that's good news for anybody, including the wedding party this weekend for Brent and his family down there. This is our next area. I think it's 93E, E for Eastern Pacific. We got to really watch this because that could come up along here and become a really big problem for portions of the Baja Peninsula and maybe even the desert Southwest, and I can't believe I'm saying it, possibly Southern California. That's how weird the year is, isn't it? Yes, it is. Elsewhere, there's 91L. There's Danielle. And let's just slide this over a little bit. There we are. I love Dr. Cowan's interface at Tropical Tidbits. So there's the system in the Pacific that we're going to really need to watch closely. Here's 91L. A little bit better organized, but that's not saying much. Still got these sort of blobs of thunderstorms. We'll take this away and just, there we go, a little cluster here. Another one over here, another one over here. That is not very well organized. You don't need me to tell you that. And then way up here in the far North Atlantic, there's our hurricane. And the way the satellite imagery is with the Mercator projection, taking a round Earth and making it on a flat satellite imagery, and this Mercator projection makes things look stretched. So if you were like really sitting over it with a satellite, it would look more round and more symmetrical. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. And you can clearly see, by the way, 94L, all the dryness out here. And again, it is not dust, where it's just all this African dust blowing off. It is just this terribly hostile environment. In fact, this is a good segue into the theme of today's update, strange season. This tweet from Danny Morris. Now, Danny is one of these rare folks that I will show that is not a meteorologist. They're just a weather fan, somebody deeply interested in tropical weather. But Danny could do your taxes, I guess. CPA, right? Certified Public Accountant. Lives down in Florida, I do believe. But very active on Twitter, and once in a while I'll cite somebody that is not necessarily in the science. But that's fine, because they, when I usually do that, they're not, promoting nonsense or whatever. And this is good. I like people that are smart and know what they're looking for. I thought this was an interesting tweet. This is not normal. That's right. What are we looking at? Well, just this whole pattern here, just deep troughing, lots of dry air. The way that the Bermuda High is practically non-existent. The atmosphere is broken, basically. All kinds of stuff is just very goofy, and we're not getting any development because of it. The tropical waves are coming off of Africa, are stretched one way or the other. They're larger, they're not compact. There's so much dry, sinking air going on in the Atlantic Basin, and the pattern reminds us a lot more of an El Nino than a La Nina, where things are very favorable in a La Nina and unfavorable. It's almost like a La Nino. There's no such thing as that, but it's just upside down. It is goofy and strange, and I don't really see how it's going to resolve itself, especially, you ready for this? When you see this. This is a tweet yesterday from Phil Klotzbach, and he was chiming in talking about it. It's almost comical. In the face of all of the negativity that's in the Atlantic Basin, in terms of the background state, the ECMWF, which is regarded as one of the better computer models and the whole, entity behind it, the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, is not, Acme Weather or whatever. You know what I mean? It's to be taken seriously. And it has been very good over the years. But yet, with all of this, what's going on stuff and how negative the conditions are, the ECMWF is still calling for a busy second half of the Atlantic hurricane season with significantly above normal ACE and tropical cyclone frequency when, wait for it, September 11th through October 2nd. It's like, dude, is this going to be saying this, hey, from November 8th through December 2nd? That's the period of favorability. What? I mean, even Phil was so funny. He said, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But what are we looking at? I mean, these are some of the graphics, and coming up these next several weeks, 40% above normal to 80% above normal when we look farther out into time, days 19 through 25. The Eastern Pacific just a little bit above normal. The Westpac right at where it should be. And then finally going way on out, days 26 through 32. Still 180%, 80% above the long-term average in the Atlantic Basin. It's just like, okay, don't you guys know that doesn't the model know about what's going on now? Like, your input would dictate this output, and this is all very, very recent. It's just baffling. I mean, it really is. It's interesting in its own regard. And the good news, it goes without saying, no impacts to speak of, and even, it's days 12 through 18, sorry. But this does translate to quiet for people that live along the coast, and we can all agree after these last several years of very busy activity, hey, if we take a year off, we take a year off. But it's not over yet. And I know you're like, well, I've heard that before. But it's true. We still have quite a ways to go. Yet, we go to this, and you'd be like, yeah, the GFS and the Euro are like, nope, still same old song and dance. So what do we got? Well, this is 91L. Let's see it where it shows up, shall we? I thought I had this all set up right. That's okay. There it is there, 91L. There's Danielle. And that's about it. That's the system in the Eastern Pacific. But we're going to look at that in just a moment by itself. Anyway, let's just run this out for the next 2 weeks. GFS takes Danielle and eventually Earl there. That would be Earl right there. And it dances both of them around the North Atlantic. I'm just going to go back and forth here. So that would add some ace points to the pile, so to speak. And I mean, honestly, if this comes to fruition, it should chew away at some of those ridiculous anomalies in the North Atlantic. And there might be, I said this yesterday and the day before even, maybe there is something to this. That this is what shakes up the pattern a little bit, because it will take some of that heat out of the far northern latitudes. I mean, I'm just trying to see, like, logically what could happen. And, of course, the typhoon in the Westpac distributing the heat into the jet stream, and things start getting even more weird from there with steering and how the patterns are. You know, it's strange, like I said. So here you go. Here's the next 2 weeks. And by the way, this ends September 18th with nary a single area of vorticity that is concentrated and even worth looking at, all the way out to 2 weeks. Hey, you know, they say don't share 14-day or 16-day model plots of a big hurricane over Miami. Maybe you're not supposed to share a 16-day model plot where there's nothing either. It kind of works both ways, maybe, right? In the Eastern Pacific, the Euro, this is from the 12Z run today. I was trying to remember where the heck I am. So here's our current tropical storm, Javier, and then this is our Invest 93E, I believe it is. At least I can pronounce 93E. I took high school Spanish. I just don't remember what you do with that R. Javier. Anyway, it stays off the Baja, as you can see right there. The core of it, anyway. But then this, we really have to watch here. Run this down at a time. This is every 3 hours on the Euro. The next one, which would be K-A-Y. I do know how to pronounce that. That goes up, and, you know, maybe somewhere in the central Baja. This is so far out, almost a week out. You know, if it turns a little bit sooner, it's Cabo San Lucas, perhaps. If it's later, it's farther to the north. And then look what happens. I mean, that gets up into the Gulf of California, where even our friends, I'm not kidding here, in southwest Arizona, almost into California, there is some vorticity left. I would go out there for that. I'd almost drive my Tacoma all the way out here just to see that in person. And it would be a pretty big flood threat, by the way. That's not to be taken lightly. We saw what the monsoon did out there with I-10 and I-15, Death Valley. So we got to watch this. There's certainly the potential for some severe impacts for our friends along the Baja, either Cabo San Lucas and vicinity and all the way up, and or the southwest portions of the United States. So we'll be watching this closely. It's not just about the Atlantic. You know, that might be what you're interested in, but as an earth scientist and a geography and hurricane researcher, I'm interested in the impacts anywhere I can get to them, at least safely. All right, let's keep on going here, trying to keep this short. Here's our typhoon, Hinamnor, or however you say it. They all can't be Bob and Frank and whatever and Kay. It's just the way it goes. Kind of disheveled overall, itself experiencing some shear. Our friend James Reynolds is over here, if I'm not mistaken, on this island, Miyakojima. I think that's how you pronounce it, something like that. And he is going to stay there. And this does look like, in the computer modeling, if you can believe it, I mean, we're starting to get to that point. Well, let me circle where Miyako is, if I can find it. I think it's right over here where James Reynolds is located, and we run this out into time. Pretty good spot there for him as this starts to reorganize and deepen, and it goes up there east of China and perhaps into South Korea on the west side of Japan. And then, like we've been saying, by day 5, all that energy will get inserted into the global pattern, and that'll be interesting to see what happens with things downstream beyond the 1 week time frame. These giant sources of heat get put into the system, and all sorts of other strange things can happen. All right, so we'll wish our friend James Reynolds the best of luck down there as he awaits the typhoon on those southern islands there off the coast of Japan and Taiwan. So, yep, strange season. We'll see. Again, at least, look, hey, it's Labor Day weekend. A lot of people going to the beach. There will be rip currents, but they're not going to be associated with any tropical systems. So that's good news. No impacts to speak of. And we got the rocket launch hopefully tomorrow down at the Cape. A lot of people are going to be down there watching that, enjoying the eastern beaches of Florida. So no complaints, especially, again, after what we've been through. And once they come back, we get hurricanes again, we'll be ready. We'll be on top of it, even if it's quiet for now. All right? All right, let me get this online for you. You guys have a happy and safe and enjoyable Labor Day weekend. As always, thanks for tuning in. I'll have the What's Up segment tomorrow, maybe a hurricane outlook and discussion tomorrow afternoon, but I mean, we might not need it. Maybe we'll wait until Monday, and we'll just do the What's Up stuff in the mornings. All right? All right, have a great rest of your Friday. I'm Mark Sutta. Thanks for watching. I'll speak at you again one way or the other throughout the weekend.